are live. We are live. Welcome. Man, it is Monday, August 25th, 2025, and it feels like things are just moving at such a rapid pace. Oh my word. There are not enough hours in the day. If anyone figures out how to manufacture more time, please let me know. Hop in our Discord. I would love to figure out how you do that. Whatever machine you use, I'm going to invest in it because I need some of that. Welcome to the AGF podcast. It's the podcast of the Home Education Foundation. The Home Education Foundation is an organization that was started by Brenda Dickinson and Craig Dickinson in the early 1990s after they had worked so hard to get the original bill passed with the help of Representative Daniel Webster to make home education a legal path of enrollment in the state of Florida, which is unique in all of the other states. Especially at the time, because you had to have a private school through which you were homeschooling. And the uniqueness about Florida is it allowed the parents to have the individual and spelled out right to have their own enrollment track as a home education parents and home education students. And it's a wonderful thing. And ever since then, for the last 40 years, Brenda has been the voice of parents in the Capitol as she has helped expand the rights and opportunities of home education families in the state of Florida, from dual enrollment to Bright Futures to FLVS, who is one of our guests today, which is fantastic, to scholarships for children with disabilities. Behind the scenes, she has worked to have a hand to push forward many opportunities for home education families. And honestly, without Brenda, it just wouldn't be the same that it is today. Everyone's calling this expansion of school choice such a wonderful thing, and Brenda was at the helm of it early on, intentionally not calling it school, homeschooling, but education, so that parents could focus on the education and not try to make everything look like school, but they could do it their own way. And I have come in. My name is Jason Crawford. I'm the new lobbyist for the Home Education Foundation, and I have come in to take that torch and carry it forward, and it wouldn't be possible without the work and support of our sponsors. So we want to give a special thank you to a special thank you to Arete, FPEA, Fisher Precious Metals, and TBHC Group as some of our top sponsors. Hey, listen, Mike, if FLVS wants to be one of our top sponsors, they can be too. They just need to sell it. I'll send you the paperwork. Today, we have with us Mike Lassiter from Florida Virtual School, FLVS, and Brenda Dickinson, the original founder of the Home Education Foundation. And I think we want to do a historical dive a little bit into some of those early expansion choices. Before we dive in to any of that, welcome to the HEF podcast, Mike.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Glad to be here and help share some opportunities that Florida Virtual School has to offer for home education families.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit, just so people who are listening and see you on know who you are. Tell us a little bit kind of who you are, maybe some of your history with homeschooling, and what your current role is.
Well, my current role, I'm the district relation manager for Northwest Florida. There's 8 other, I say ladies because I work on a team with 7 other ladies, and they what we do throughout the state is we support local districts, local schools, private schools, charter schools, home education organizations as a liaison for Florida Virtual School, and what are some of the things that we have available. My actual personal story, I was a educator for a long time in Leon County. My wife was as well. But we also, we had 4 kids, and they were involved in private school, home education, public school, all throughout what we did. They took classes with Florida Virtual School. So I feel as in my role that I can really kind of talk to all 3 avenues of those, of people that are maybe transitioning from one to the other, or what are the things that Florida Virtual School can do as they continue to work through what they think is best for their kids. The other thing is we do, first time I met you, Jason, when you came on with the foundation, was in Pensacola at a homeschool expo. So my team, we go to FPEA, but also homeschool expos. I'm speaking next month in Madison County at a homeschool group. So our team really goes out there to be able to advocate for Florida Virtual School, to let home education families know how they can engage with us, that it's not a hard thing to do. It's something that's easy for them to kind of onboard and incorporate a lot of great curriculum into what they're already doing with their program and what they've set out for their family.
That's awesome. And, thank you for sharing your background too, because I think that it's easy as homeschoolers or home education families to kind of unplug from all of these different systems. And then as we go to re-engage for a class here or there, or some help over here, I think sometimes we lose sight of the fact that other people can have background experiences for they are in the know, especially since, homeschooling on a mass scale is still, only about 6% roughly, of the population. I've seen numbers that have varied between 6 and 9%, but it's still fairly low and it's not that widespread. So I think a lot of us sometimes have the idea that, people who we interact with don't know us, they don't understand the problems or the challenges or the uniqueness. And, you've been really helpful recently. I don't want to get into it yet. I want to start with what Brenda wants to start with.
Okay.
But I just want to give you, a kudos, because you were really helpful with a unique situation that we had that I had no clue you guys work with or help with. And so I'd like to dive into that later, not in full details, but just to kind of, demonstrate it. But Brenda, good morning or afternoon.
I always like to bring a historical perspective because I'm at my niece's house in Sanford, and she was having a friend come over, and I didn't realize that the mom had been homeschooled as a child herself, and now she's homeschooling her children. But she has no idea about the history of home education. And so many families out there that are currently home education, especially those that have come in through PEP, really don't know the history and how much has gone into it. So back in 1984, it was illegal to home educate in Florida. So those of us that were a little brave stepped out and decided we needed our own pathway so that we could customize the education of our children. There was a lot of fear in the community. People didn't still, even though it was legal, didn't want anybody to know about it. But around 1991, 92, we began to have a little bit more confidence. And, we'd tell our neighbor, well, I'm homeschooling my children, We didn't have to actually go out in the car and take them to the school and they get down on the floor and we come home and pull the drapes. 1991, we were beginning to come into our own. However, in about 1995, well, it was actually 96, a home education member of my board called me and said, hey, do you want to start a virtual school? I said, I can hardly turn on a computer. How am I going to help start a virtual school? He said, well, I said, I'm working on dual enrollment and extracurricular to try to get those passed this year. Call me after session. So he did. And by that time, that this little group that had decided they wanted to start a virtual school had gotten a grant from the Department of Education to pilot a program. And so I think it was $138,000 they got initially to pay for an advisory board and try to get together and figure out. So it was a real interest in Orange County and in Alachua County, where Bob Muni was, and he was working with them. And Julie Young was leading the charge in Orange County, and she was fantastic individual. And so they created a board, and it was an advisory board because we were all just figuring out what was going on. And I remember no one had any lobbying experience except me. And so they said, well, would you help us? Well, yeah, I'll help you, no pay. The reason that I was interested in it was because home education families were confident until they got to 9th grade. And so we would have our numbers climbing. And at 8th grade, it was like a cliff. Everybody fell off the cliff and put their kids back into some form of conventional schooling, be it public or private. And so when the idea of Florida Virtual came about, I thought, wow, this is a real great opportunity for home education parents if they didn't want to teach chemistry or physics or, algebra, whatever it was. So I thought this would be a great supplement to keep our kids into home education through the 12th grade. No one really wanted to put their kids back, but they didn't feel confident to teach in the high school years. So when Florida Virtual was created, there were homeschoolers leading the way the school was created. And our thoughts were it should be available for any parent, especially in the rural communities where they had very few, if any, AP courses or honors courses because they didn't have enough kids to make those classes, and for home education. So really it was created for the rural communities and home educators. Well, home educators were the beta testers because the public schools would not allow their students to be part of it. So Florida Virtual started out loving home education because
and still do.
And so when we created it, we did create 2 sections of Florida Virtual School. The Flex was really intended more for home education because the full-time program is like going to a public school online with all the standards and the benchmarks. But they do follow the anytime, any pace, any place, any path. Maybe I got those mixed up, but those are the right words, right?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
And so that was the homeschool model. We knew that all students didn't learn at the same pace. Some would take longer. And I've kind of lost the details on the classes. So Mike, you can bring us up to date on that.
For sure.
Initially, a child that was struggling in math, they had courses that the kids could go backwards until they found where they fit in. And then they would have the individual tutoring classes that would help them bring their math skills up to the standard. I don't know if they still have those or not.
We have some in between courses, for those students that are needed some extra help or need a half a step instead of a full step between courses. But yeah, and like Ms. Dickinson said, we're a full-fledged school district within the state of Florida, and that's our full-time school. So kids are required to do all the extra things, EOCs, all of the things that regular school district students do. Our Flex program, of course, does reach to the homeschool family PEP students, but also charter schools, private schools, and public schools now utilize Flex as a supplement for either courses a student needs to recover or students that are accelerated, all of those other kind of things. So we do kind of have 3 feet. We have our full-time program, we have our Flex program, but we also have what we is called Flex Point Educational Cloud, which reaches even outside the state of Florida and outside of the United States to service students that maybe want to utilize our most excellent curriculum and utilize some of our teachers to be able to utilize as a homeschool parent in a different state, or maybe they're in a rural area in a different state, or they're out of the country, but they still want to stay in touch with Florida standards or United States standards because they're coming back for college or any of those kind of things. So we do have those kind of 3 realms still.
So the concept was we would create the school in Florida for Florida students, and it would be free. And then we created the global arm for the purpose of bringing in money to continue to develop good curriculum. But it was a concept that most of the legislators and especially those in the public system, they didn't like it at all because they couldn't do the same thing, and they didn't understand that kind of funding. So we really broke the mold in a lot of ways with the creation of this. And I remember one funny legislator, she was a Democrat, but I loved her to death. I said, as I was lobbying and talking to these people about, creating this as as an opportunity for a school in Florida. She said, virtual what? How can you do that? It was because computers were so new to the individual back in 96. You just couldn't even conceive of it, you know?
I'm not even sure when we got a computer in our home. I think it was somewhere around there.
Yeah, me too.
So there's still like Hello World and HTMLing. And I think a lot of it must have been done through email at that point. Or maybe you pinged my pager and then I called you.
Yeah, I think that was the way it worked, the pager and the call. I mean, so it was a very unique idea to start with. And
it's forward thinking.
And then we went through, how are you going to sell these courses to the districts? Because they saw that being money taken out of the districts and they didn't want it. So FLVS came up with a franchise program where they use public school teachers, and then FLVS provided the curriculum, and together they let the districts handle it. So now we have district FLVSs, right? And then you can go directly to FLVS for the courses. And, you know, most homeschoolers, well, they would have to retain their homeschool status to do flex. And then if you enroll full-time in the public school, then you were a public school full-time student. So really flex is the thing that's really key. But I wanted to hit on 2 points today, and especially this is for PEP parents. We tried last year to get the legislature to amend the law so that for the PEP students, the nonprofit corporation, Step Up and AAA, would have to retain the money for that course in their scholarship fund, so that at the end, when FLVS or the student finished and FLVS applied for the money for the course completion, the money was still in the student's account. So I'm going to back up even a little bit more. When we established the FLVS, we thought we'd do this in a unique way. If the student took longer to complete a course and it wasn't on the time schedule of the public school, that we would have them paid on course completion with the Florida Virtual School. It's retained that same funding model, I believe now, so that the kids have to complete the course for Florida Virtual to be paid. It's a little bit challenging because if they don't complete the course and the teachers put in all these hours helping the student, then Florida Virtual doesn't get paid.
That this year has been updated a little bit, Ms. Dickinson. So PEP students, before they can be placed in a course, they have to, because they're receiving those state funds, they have to initiate either a payment plan or secure those funds or anything else like that. So the FLVS isn't always paid up front. There may be a payment plan, but those funds are secured prior to being put in the course with PEP students. So those funds are secured now through our scholarship team working with AAA and Step Up. So the process is a little bit more seamless. It's not completely seamless.
So it's secured through contract with the SFOs, not through statute.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Just clarifying. Keep going.
So we want it clarified in statute because that ensures that the funds are going to be there. I mean, let's hope that the parent follows through with the contract, but we've seen some ways in this PEP that maybe the parents didn't read the contract before they signed it, and
we love all parents, but I do run into some of those issues.
And I can tell you one thing that we do have. We have a great scholarship team. There's about 8 or 9 members of that, director, a manager, and some customer service people that really work with those parents, not only how they're going to secure those funds, whether it be out of pocket through scholarship funds or whether, but then we will, but our scholarship team then make sure that those things are taken care of, and that students that are parents and families that need a little bit of help or whatever walking that path, our scholarship team does that. We also have a great flex counseling team that they work with our homeschool families, PEP and homeschoolers, and they help them do that. And even my team, district relations managers, like you said, Jason, earlier, we worked with a family that was trying to get into the process and those kind of things. So FLVS has really developed some great opportunities for families to reach out, to be able to be supported so they don't feel like they're walking on their own.
That's great.
Yeah, that is wonderful. I think someone asked, Tracy asked the question that I was kind of holding on to because I haven't been talking at all. I didn't want to interrupt Brenda. I know she doesn't like to be interrupted, but I'm like, oh, wait.
Well, this wealth of knowledge.
I would be wondering about this, or I would be wondering about that. And, yeah. So I squirrel a little bit, and then I think our families are too. So let's back up just a hair. The difference, really kind of slow down for me on the difference between FLVS and FLVS Flex. From the standpoint of a parent, as they're looking for, and maybe it's early on in their education, or maybe it's that 9 through 12, but help me understand the distinction between why a parent would choose FLVS or FLVS Flex.
Well, you have to look at it like this. There's FLVS, the organization, the educational, educational curriculum provider, for everybody across the board. Underneath that umbrella, really what we have is we have our full-time schools, which we have elementary full-time, middle school full-time, and high school full-time. And those are just like regular brick and mortar schools. You're 6 classes per semester. You're really regulated on some of the time. It's still flexible when you work on your courses, but you may have teachers that require you to be in at 9 on Tuesday for a live lesson or anything else like that. So that's our full-time school. Looks really like brick and mortar, but virtual.
And FLVS, so I heard you say that FLVS is technically a public school district, and that's what that's that entity that you're talking about, right? In that aspect, right? Okay.
And those students are required to have immunization records. They're required to do EOCs. They're required all state standardized testing, all of those things. So that's really our full-time school. They have principals and teachers that do just that. FLVS Flex is really what people say when they say FLVS. That's really what they mean is our Flex program, because our Flex program covers home education families, PEP families, private school families, charter school families, public school families. So if Mike Lassiter was taking a course at Rickards High School here in Tallahassee, I was in the IB program, but I needed to take an AP calculus class that I couldn't work out in my schedule. Then I get to take that AP course through FLVS, and it's a Flex course that I take through that. So Flex really covers all of those people. And then, of course, Flexport Global, old global, but educational cloud is what we serve outside of the state of Florida, or some special cases where a student, maybe their private school isn't affiliated with Florida Virtual School, but they really want to take a course with us, one of our CTE courses, because they're really interested in that and the certification. What they do is they end up taking it through FlexPoint, which is a tuition-based educational opportunity for them. So really, what we run into, my team, like if I go to a homeschool expo and we're talking to families, we may have homeschool families that say, well, I do it full FLVS full time. Really what that means is FLVS is their all-inclusive educational curriculum that their parents have chosen to use, as opposed to really being part of our full-time program.
Got you. So the distinction would be, you're enrolled in FLVS as a public school, not as a home education student, or you're enrolled as a home education student, and then you take the classes, maybe your full load, or maybe a la carte one, but you're taking that from FLVS Flex. I do think that there are a lot of families across the state that don't quite understand that distinction. So thank you, for clarifying that and spelling that out.
Well, and I can say this, if there are homeschool groups that really need some massaging of that difference, my team, the district relations managers team, we're spread out throughout the state. And like I said, I'm speaking in Madison next month. We go and we provide that. We support FPEA and we're there, but we also utilize any opportunity that we can be in order to do that. And so our website has a district relations managers team. So if there are co-ops or home education organizations that are affiliated with the foundation, they for sure can reach out to us and say, hey, we've got a parent night, or hey, we have a kickoff that we're doing, and we would love to be able to come and share some information. We'll bring some cool things like yo-yos and backpacks and some pass outs like that too. But we'd love to come and be able to share that, to show how easy it is to onboard as a home education family. You know, when we homeschooled, just as a personal experience, you know, our kids were involved in the co-op, but we took Latin with our co-op, but we also wanted some world language that was, you know, that we could show transcript for and those kind of things. So several of our my older kids took Latin with FLVS in order to be able to add that to what we were already doing. You know, they were doing, you know, at least Wendy Lassiter said they were doing college level Latin as part of our co-op, but we wanted to be able to show that. So that is something that they continue to include. So,
well, that's a good point I wanted to bring up too, is
go for it.
For parents that use FLVS, it's recognized nationwide with colleges and universities. And so having those language courses through FLVS, or any kind of course that would document the level of learning of that child, can go on a transcript, and it's fully recognized, which then gives more credibility to the other courses and grades that the student is getting from a home education program. But home education parents really don't have to teach anything, which is kind of crazy. But they can choose 2 FLVS courses. They can choose 2 private school courses. They can do dual enrollment. And I have a grandnephew here, and he's a senior.
You said it that way.
What? The homeschoolers don't have to teach anything?
Oh, well, that's going to be the punchline when they run the news article.
They're very flexible, is my point.
They're going to run the news article, and it's going to say Brenda Dickinson, after 40 years, says homeschoolers don't have to do anything.
Well,
they customize the education of their child. You know.
Yes. I get what you mean, though. Right, let me clarify before we move forward. I get what you're saying, though. I want to clarify this for our listeners. What you're saying is that the criteria and the line for line spell out for home education families is not the same as it is for public school, which is why certain things like the immunization records and things like that are a part of the FLVS public program, etc. And so I just wanted to clarify that so the parents know that distinction. Mike, go on. You were saying.
No. Oh, no, I was just going to say, you know, my favorite part of homeschooling was parent-teacher conferences. And I would, as the parent, meet with my teacher, Wendy Lassiter, and ask her, what are you teaching? So I wanted to know how.
To be his wife. Wait a minute. We need to clarify.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So, and that's another thing. I'll tell you this, you know, we have a significant number of Florida Virtual School teachers, support staff, people in leadership, those kind of things that are engaged in home education. And that's why we really love working with the home education community, is because they're part of it themselves. I was at a meetup with some teachers in my local county here in Leon on Friday, just to build some community teacher collegial conversations, those kind of things. And they were talking about their home education experience, not only with their own kids, but also being able to meet those needs, you know, whether it was guitar. And, you know, not all of us are you know, artists and are musicians, but their student, right? Exactly. But so those home education families that were engaged in being able to take a guitar class at home as part of their regular schedule of home education, as opposed to, you know, my kids, we went out and went to guitar lessons and those kind of things, which are great, but it gives them another option to be able to include that with what they're doing. And you don't have to miss a guitar lesson if you're on a you know, a field trip going to the mountains in the fall. You can still continue to take that guitar class with Florida Virtual School. Just put it in your pack, put it in the camper, and then maybe you can be working on FLVS, sitting around the fire at night as you're experiencing those things that home education families really want the experiences to be, because they chose what they're doing.
Spoken like a true homeschooler, right?
Yeah, man, absolutely. You get
Hey,
it.
I was a minister of public education for 22 years, so don't tell all my public education friends.
I gotta say, one of my favorite things is the parent-teacher conference too, but that might be because I have a crush on the teacher. So
Exactly, yeah. Can we end this with a kiss, right?
yeah. So, from a parent's perspective, because I've seen articles even this past week. If for a person who hates reading and is not very good at it, I do an awful lot of it. It just takes me a lot longer than other people. But I saw an article that a recent parent was putting their students through. They had just graduated one, and some of the other ones were going through that high school age, and they were kind of giving some tips, and here's what you need to know, and it takes a lot of more research. Really do your research. And they were trying to be hopeful and say, like, but you can do it, but you really need to know what you're doing as you go in, but you can do it. And I think that's that 9 through 12 that Brenda talked about, which was kind of one of that early reasons for FLVS's emergence. That was a bit of a hole. What happens when we get to 9 through 12, and then can they go on to college? And there's this like chasm that we have to overcome. And I think a lot of parents today still feel that chasm, especially if they're coming from a public school environment and they're going, I want to dare to do this homeschool thing, but this is a black hole of knowledge for me.
Right. Pre-calculus doesn't land on me the same as it does on some other people.
Yeah. What are some things that you could help some of those parents know about FLVS Flex to kind of give them? I'm always looking to help parents have confidence in their choice to home educate and to say, hey, there are opportunities, ways, and the statutes support it, and here's what you can do.
Right. Well, I can tell you this. Number one, we have an outstanding curriculum team, and we develop all of our own curriculum. So we're not pulling from Pearson. We're not pulling from any of those other publishers. We have a curriculum team that their sole purpose is to create rigorous curriculum for students to be able to master the content. We still have to stay with state statute because we are a public school, but that is their sole purpose. They work solely on that. So what you're really doing is our teachers love that because they're not having to create their own lesson plans. They're not having to do all of that extra research that you were just talking about. They're able to say, hey, listen, I can take this because I know they were state standards. I know that these people are experts in their field. They've done the research. They've created the curriculum. So the parents can know that our curriculum team is providing that curriculum without any other outside bias of it could be a book publisher out of Colorado or out of California that's not really in tune with some of those things that we deal with in the state of Florida.
Right.
Through the legislature.
So, America.
Right. Yes, exactly. So our instructional team curriculum, man, they are top notch. We talk about being the leaders in virtual education, being a technology, we had a disruption of some of our logins this morning. So technology gets us all. But as far as being a leader and a trailblazer in curriculum for online curriculum for students, we feel we started in 1997 with Brenda's help and those in Orange County and Julie, that we really feel that we do kind of break the ice on a lot of those areas. We don't spread ourselves so thin like some of those other curriculum providers, but our teachers love it because they engage with the student and mastery of that. So parents can know that we're not looking for just point and click and get through. We're not looking to pass you through to the next grade. Our teachers are engaged with their students. I can tell you the times I sat with my wife, when she worked with FLVS, either doing a DBA and my kids were in the background and they were answering the questions that she was asking on the discussion-based assessment, or whether she was talking to a student that was in Japan, that was a traveling athlete and they were having to make things through, or a military family that had been stationed overseas. She felt like she really knew those students. It's not that the face-to-face was missed, because it was, but that she really knew what those students were engaged in. So the parents can know that our teachers are really, when we say one-to-one on the website, they really are one-to-one engaged with that student at that time for what they're doing to help them master the curriculum. So if a parent wonders, well, I need to do all this extra stuff, if it's pre-calculus, even if it's AP class, it could be a CT class that, I know you and I were talking the other day about a home education parent that created some coding for their student to be able to do to, individualize their instruction. Our MJ coding class blows it away for parents that might be like me and Brenda, who says, I didn't have a computer until the 2000s. But it meets that student where they are. It prepares them for where they're going. And as homeschool families, that's what they want to do. They want to be able to be that. Our homeschool journey was really about my wife being an educator and saying, well, I trained to do this. Who better to do it for my children than myself? And I know not everybody comes into homeschooling for with that thing. Yeah. But so that started it. So, the expert in the field, it's just like any other profession. Where do I find the people that I need to know stuff from that I can do that? And those parents can be for sure reliant that FLVS has done the research with our curriculum team, and the implementation from the teacher is going to be that's going to sit them. Not to usurp what the parents are doing, but it's going to be able to supplement that.
All right. So 2 things. Thank you for all of that. That's great.
Sorry.
One, no. You don't apologize. This is great information. And I think the parents who are listening and watching are benefiting. We're a live podcast, though, so it's a little bit different than podcasts that are pre-recorded and published.
Right.
So we've got some questions. So
let me say one thing before we move on to questions. Back in the beginning, we as the advisory board and then the board of the FLVS got to see all of the course development. And so they'd come and present like a physics course. It was so exciting. I wanted to take the course. I mean, it just was.
Our teachers want to take all of our courses too. Yeah.
They're so exciting. I just was like, I want to sign up for that course. Okay, go ahead.
So Laura Brunner is a evaluator from our Discord, and she says the team at FLVS is top notch. Mike, please pass along a shout out to Leanne Lloyd and Jennifer. I'm going to ruin the name here. Puente Ruiz Calderon. I don't know.
Right.
If I said it right.
Yeah.
It's there.
She's just Jenny from the block.
Jenny from the block. Tell Jenny from the block. Pass that along. And then she said, I've had the opportunity to work with them at multiple schools, and they were always incredibly helpful and supportive, especially in meeting the needs of our non-traditional students. Thank you.
Right. I will for sure do that. I'm good friends with that. Leanne is actually on my team. She's the district relations manager for Central Florida. Yeah.
Excellent. And then Vicky Bacon Montgomery says, who is the local Coral Springs FLVS rep now?
Well, it depends on what you're looking for. Coral Springs, I will show my geography inadequacy here because I match people with districts. So, for example, I've got Hamilton County down to Dixie all the way to Escambia. My good friend Deanne, she's got from Columbia County over almost to Duval and then down to Polk. So
that leads me to another good question. So your districts,
Duval,
Broward is Yamilka Gomez, and she's the district relations manager. So that would be for a homeschool organization or co-op that was reaching out to her to come and speak.
Broward.
If a individual parent needs some assistance, on our website, if you go to the counseling and advisement, we have a great flex counseling team that if you're looking for help with pupil progression, what course do I take next? We just took pre-calculus. Do I need to take calculus AP, AB, or can I go to BC? So our counselors are designed to do that. So they work just like a public school counselor, but with our homeschool families. And you can go to our counseling website and you can click on your district, the county that you live in, and it will highlight them and give you their contact information. So it really depends on that. But Yamilka is in Broward County, and she can help take care of anything that she would need. And I wish I had links up. I was making sure everything was shut down so I didn't get Teams messages or things popping up. But that way, but it's on our website. You can research Florida Virtual School District
Mhm.
Relations Managers or Florida Virtual School Flex Counselors, and it will get you that help. And if not, if somebody reaches out to me, just like a homeschool parent, if I talk to them
Yep.
and they need to have a counselor, because
Yeah.
I am for sure, I work with counselors, but I for sure am not able to let you know after
Mhm.
that calculus class what you need to take. They can for sure work with the families in order to be able to help them.
I would also say jump in our Discord and ask those questions, because oftentimes there's a parent like Laura's in here, and she's an evaluator, so she works with different families
Right.
in those areas, and they can be helpful to kind of help you get to those places as well. And as that community is growing, it's growing a lot right now. There's a
Right.
lot of support, and many hands make light work. So
Yes.
as you hop in there and you work with each other and you communicate, that our Discord is an invaluable resource to parents all across the state of Florida. We're the Home Education Foundation. People have asked us this before, but we are not currently a foundation that works outside of the state of Florida. We are so deep in the weeds, and I'm
Right.
so deep in the weeds right now on funding and other issues. There's so much to work on. I would need 50 of me to be in other states. And if I ever get that to that point, maybe I'll run that from the top down. But at the moment,
Right.
Florida's enough for me.
Right.
But there's a lot of support in our Discord for families, and it is Florida based. And we are working to bring on vendors and other people who can have special little setups inside our Discord to be accessible from within there. And as we move forward and that grows, I would love for parents to be able to do it and see those. Not in so much as you go to a website that's got support and there's ads everywhere.
Right.
This would be something where there's a channel and it's off to the side, and if you want to engage, you can, but they can't see the rest of the server. So there are little what do you call it? Safe spaces. There's firewalls that are set up
Right.
inside the server to keep the vendors in their own area, and they can engage back with you, but they wouldn't be able to engage you without you engaging first. And so as we look to set up more opportunities like that, as we move forward, you might see some of those develop. So that's another great way of accessing those. So I want to take a second, and
Right.
I want to lead this by saying thank you for your help recently. It's wonderful to work with you. You're always a breath of fresh air, and when there's something that I don't know, you're quick to help fill in a gap of something and bring me up to speed, and then we collaborate together. And I love that.
Well, thank you for the PEP help too.
Absolutely, yeah. We're here for you as well. For our families that might be listening, especially those who see us for the first time when they hit some of these podcasts and they think, oh, these guys are together on everything. I want to be careful,
Right.
because the Home Education Foundation, we have a mission, and that is to support parents who are in the ultimate do-it-yourself category of education.
Right.
And while I love all of the aspects of the support and the classes and having experts in the field, we constantly tell parents that they don't have to be experts to home
Right.
educate their kids. And I think one of the subtle but maybe slowly insidious issues is the concept of standards. And as you create public education as a path, and then private, and then home education, and then are they doing good is always the question. Are they doing good? Are the kids
Right.
learning? But are they being able to pass this test? And it's like, well, now we need to know that, and then all of this multiplicity of standards. I saw another one recently. I'm not going to name it because I don't want to give it any kind of shout out. But I saw another one recently pop up, and the people who are starting it have the background out of military experience and this and that, and so they've got all the box checked for why we should trust them, and they're so smart and all that good stuff. But they're offering badges, and it's like, oh well, we can help you get pre-approved and set up as not just a provider, but a approved provider, a parent approved provider. We'll put a stamp on that. We'll say that you're good enough, and I struggle with, I love the expansion of the options and all the things parents have to choose from. I love it. I think it's awesome. I think the more that we disrupt the groove, that hard groove, that it can only be done this way, the better off we are. But then also, as things get so chaotic and free, now who knows what's even happening out there. So there's that balance between having standards, and the standards are too narrow. They don't fit every kid, and you run into some of that with public school where, oh, now that we have standards, we have 25 kids, it's really benefiting 7, and the rest are just kind of being moved through, and a lot of them are falling off. And do the standards work? I don't know. Let's change math. It looks like this. And so we hit that place where, as the Home Education Foundation, we're constantly trying to remind parents that a lot of that has to do with people getting paid. And that what your child needs is to grow up, learn how to read, learn how to think, learn how to survive. Can you make money? I had a conversation with my daughter. She's hitting that 9 through 12, So we started to have this conversation where she loves baking. And it's like, we're doing math through baking, and we're doing math through this. And she likes playing tabletop games. So we're rolling dice, and we're doing math through this, and we're doing fractions through that. And everything is some sort of learning experience. And then I ask, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to go to college? Do you want to do this? How do you want to, what would that look like as we start to kind of peel back? What standards do you have to meet in order to get that thing, right? If you want to unlock the door of being a lawyer, you're going to need the key, which is a college degree. And so helping her think through those things and plan those next steps, and also realize that as a parent, I know more about life. And as a child, she knows less. So she's not really equipped yet to just draw a hard line and make that choice. So if she goes all in and says, "Oh, I don't need college," and I go, "But you might," we're having this conversation, and I want parents to get the message that they can lean into doing things their way. But there are times where maybe you do need to check some of those boxes and get into some of those places and understand what those are. Can you help me understand how you guys work with parents in that environment so that they kind of stay at the helm of the education for their children?
Right.
Just kind of dive into that for me.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of different ways. Number one, with Flex, it can be a la carte. So even if you're an elementary school student and you are and you're using Shirley Grammar and you're using Jacobs or Saxon or any of those other curriculums, it really is, you can kind of pick and choose how you add or what you add. The second thing is all of our courses have a 14-day grace period where you get in and you look at it and you say, hey, listen, this is not what we thought it was going to be, or this is, maybe we're not at this level. We need to back off and maybe take a different level course, or maybe we were pushing too fast. So you have that opportunity to be able to say, hey, listen, you're not going to have a teacher that says, you're in my class and we got to get to the finish. Now, they're going to work to help you do that. They're going to work to make sure that your student is mastering the material. For example, if a standard isn't met, we do what we call discussion-based assessments, DBAs. Sometimes they can be a little frightening. Sometimes but really what they are is our teacher talking with a student and saying, tell me what you learned, much like you would do as a home education family sitting at the table. Tell me what you learned about this. Tell me what you did. And then making a decision. I think you've mastered that. You can go on and take the assessment that's going to give you the standard meet and all of those other kind of things. So that allows them to be in the control. And our teachers are communicating with parents. It's not like you don't always get the same kind of communication from the public school or the private school or the charter school that you think you're getting to support kind of what decisions you're making for that. But that teacher is going to give you regular communication, and each teacher does a little bit different. It might be, weekly text, weekly emails. It might be a phone call, those kind of things. All of those on top of that give you control over go and say, hey, wait a minute, tell me about this. You have a parent and guardian account where you can see those things that they're doing and track it. There's a lot of communication that allows you to still be in control. The other thing is this, even in high school, if it's something that you don't feel comfortable teaching, it doesn't mean that you have to do all of the other things in order to be with FLVS. You don't have to take, we've had plenty of families that have gone through and taken all electives with us, world language or CTE or whatever, but all their core stuff, they're working with their co-op, they're working with their parent, they're working with whatever decision the family's made in order to be able to do that. I'm sorry, Ms. Dickinson, I saw that you had a question.
Well, we're running out of time, and it sounds like we need to have Mike back on another program, because one of the things that I told Jason I wanted you to talk about today were the career and technical courses offered. In addition to that, what are the other electives that parents can choose? You mentioned guitar, but there are other electives that a parent may not be able to access in their area. So just kind of overview those things.
I'll give you a quick 30-second rundown. So FLVS.net curriculum, you click them, and it's got a description. And for those public school people, it's got a CPOMS link that gives you the topics and concepts that are covered in every course that we offer. So that's the first place to start. The second thing is, you mentioned CTE. We've got 8 programs of study that students can take and earn certification, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, things that maybe some of us that are getting to my age are not comfortable delving into because I'm still working it out. But we have hospitality and tourism. We have agriculture. Students can be a part of our FFA sponsored chapter. There's a member of the state FFA board for students that is a FLVS student. So they can engage in all of those things. But the website's the first place to go. The second place is if you have a question about a course or next steps, see our counseling department. If you've got an organization, or even if you're just like 5 or 6 homeschool families that want to talk about it, contact your district relations manager for your county, and we'd be happy to come out. But the biggest thing is with homeschool families is know that you can a la carte it, even elementary. Let's say you're doing Shirley Grammar and Saxon or Jacob's, math, but you can take a PE course. Let's say you need some structure for physical education with your homeschool student. You can take that. You can take elementary Spanish to start to infuse that world language with your elementary students. So when they do get to high school, whether it's public charters or continue to homeschool, they have that background. We know that elementary school students, are a sponge and they take that stuff in. So computer science elementary, so all of those can be a la carte. I think that when I go to FPEA, that's the biggest thing, is parents feel like they have to be all in with FLVS. And FLVS, our motto is we're all in for students, but you don't have to do all your curriculum through FLVS. It doesn't have to be FLVS full-time unless you want to do that. Then we have a program that you can do that. So do that. Would be happy to come back and delve a little bit more into some of those other curriculum and program opportunities. But know that we support the Home Education Foundation. Jason and I are talking about how we can better do that with the Discord opportunity and those kind of things. I'm kind of low man on the total poll, but because I'm here in Leon County and have run into Jason, we run into each other all the time.
I ran into you at Costco.
So, but we are more than happy because. Even though 6% of the state of Florida, there's a significant amount of students that are FLVS students that are home education families. And we want to be able to help them meet that need. I tell school districts that my job is to be like UPS. What can Brown do for you? Sounds kind of hokey, but really that's what we're here for with homeschool families, is what can we do for you to supplement what you're doing? Never trying to usurp the parental guidance in that or the parental decisions, but where can we meet you where you're at in order to be able to be an addition, a great addition, rigorous, also fun. We have got clubs. If you live in a rural area and you don't have a lot of clubs your students can get engaged in, you can be a part of our clubs that allow you to be able to have some other engagement. So, but very happy to support. Let
me say this. That before I came on and started helping Brenda, my perception of FLVS was not positive. I didn't have a good one. And so people would ask me, what do you think of FLVS? I'm like, And working with you, and especially seeing more experiences than the ones I had personally, and hearing from others, And seeing you in action, especially on some of the difficult situations you mentioned earlier, the parent or the guardian, and we haven't had time to get into this either, and we won't, but you're extremely helpful with people with special needs and special circumstances and situations. And I've watched you bend over backwards and go the extra mile for people. And so, this is not something that the public sees. They don't see all of that stuff. And they can't have that perception. I get it. But you've changed my mind, just interacting with you and the additional experiences that I've had with FLVS. I've come to appreciate the role that you play and the help that you give to those parents. And, I appreciate you being on our podcast today for that same reason.
It's my pleasure. And, I was talking to actually one of my direct reports, and he talked about how much of an influence Miss Dickinson was originally on, that she's still around. People still mention her name all across with our leadership. So that partnership, even from the very beginning in 1997 when we started, was very valued, and we still continue to value that. Miss Dickinson, are you still part of some just influence with our leadership? Do you still talk to them any at all?
Yeah, actually, I'm still registered to lobby for Florida Virtual School this year because, I just feel like it meets a need that no other program does. We see people that jump into home education cold turkey. They bring school home the first year.
Right.
And so FLVS can be a transitional thing. It can be opportunities for them to do some career and technical things. It has driver's ed, which they can take online. I
had that on my list to mention. So make sure you tell my bosses I said we got driver's ed. It meets the new requirement.
I was going to say there was a bill that was passed that changed some of the content requirements for the driver's ed stuff, and that does have an impact on home education students. So I think stuff like that y'all are a part of and on top of are important.
Yeah. So,
well, Jason has come on board, and he is learning because I've been involved in so many different topics over the last 40 years. He can't absorb all of those. He's doing a great job, and he's reading to get on top of this stuff. Yeah. But you can't put into a year what I've done over 40 years. So, there's areas that I'm still involved with him, but I wanted him to become the voice of home education. And he's doing a fantastic job reaching out, building community, and things that I couldn't do or didn't want to do.
And my team has had interactions with him at FPA and some other homeschool things, and he is really championing, carrying that standard for home education across the state. So we appreciate that. Also appreciate your beard game. I'm sorry I couldn't match you.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate the pat on the back. It's really helpful. We should definitely have you back on because our HEF Connect, the nonprofit end of what we do, is very geared toward connecting parents with post K-12 opportunities, and bridging that gap on the career and technical parts is something that's of special interest to us for that mission. And so I will extend an invitation to you now to have you back sometime in the very near future, because time keeps ticking, man. We're working on an issue, and it's three years go by and that kid's graduated, right? So time respects no one. So we should have you on earlier rather than later to kind of talk about that before we get too far.
I think one of the things with the career technical industry certifications is it's an opportunity for students to test whether they're interested in that as a career. They can do that while they're still in high school. And let me ask one quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do y'all still have an assessment that helps kids determine what career they would be most
we have that in one of our courses where they have the opportunity to be able to do that. It's not outside of that, but we have that in one of our peer counseling and our research development courses where they can take kind of a litmus test of, what are some of the things that interest you? What are the things you could do that? But our teachers also have, especially our CTE teachers, they do that as well to be able to match them with, it might be an artificial intelligence certification, or it might be a cybersecurity certification. But as you well know, those things branch out into all different kind of careers.
Sure.
So to kind of see what those directions they are.
So
but we have great teachers.
Is that something that's at the beginning of those CTE courses, or is that something that's a standalone that you offer?
It's not a standalone. It's incorporated with one of our other courses. An elective course is not in those CTE courses, but our teachers, as the students matriculate through those, it's usually 3 or 4 courses, but as they continue to matriculate to those, our teachers are working with those, because we have a couple of CTE courses that they get under certification after the first course. Most of them are after the second or the third course. So those students are getting to be able to engage in that. They take the first one, like Ms. Dickinson said, do I like this? Is it something I'm interested in? But as they get deeper and deeper, those teachers are working with them with some of those occupations that will be.
And here's another thing quick we need to cover in the next session we have with Mike, but see those Gold Seal vocational scholarships for bright futures, that would build those 3 consecutive courses that they need if the child is interested. So there's a lot of broad range topics that we still need.
We need to dive into that. We need to dive into that because there's some stuff.
I had a list.
We will come back and we'll get into that. I know I'm going to get asked about what the link is, or how do I, as a parent, how do I find that course he was talking about? How do I get that? So give me that, and I will post it up in the follow up. I'll post it in the descriptions, as it comes up, so that parents who are watching this later can find it.
We have a great newly designed website. If you go to FLVS.net, there's a banner across the top, and it says, how do I do this? You click on that. There's also an opportunity for you to look at curriculum, and it says courses, and you click on the courses, and then it'll show you high school, middle school, elementary school, so you can investigate those courses there. There's some other things that, like we have a school for just homepage for just homeschoolers, and FAQs and those kind of things, POR, proof of residency, all those other kind of things that they need to kind of hop through. But the biggest is find your counselor for your district, for your county, be able to reach out to them, also reach out if it's a group to your district relations manager team. And then you can look at all those courses. And the thing I say is don't just click on the course. It says topics and concepts. So even if there's a question about what's going on in that course, even if it's a math course and you're talking about fractions, or we're talking about quadratic equations, or any of those kind of things, it gives you what's covered. You may have covered something at home with that, and then the second half you might want to just do half a semester of Algebra 1 as opposed to that. So anyway, so FLVS.net will get you there. If not, you can reach out to your counselor or your district relations manager.
I will get that posted as this goes up for syndication. So I'll
send you some links.
You got it. I appreciate it. Well, Mike, it has been awesome having you on.
Great to see you guys.
Call it to a close. Brenda, I always give you the last word. What would you like to say?
Well, I want to say that when I said parents don't have to teach anything, that as they get older and there's too many subjects to cover, it becomes very difficult for parents to be all there is. But the key is to customize the education for your child. So with all of the opportunities, dual enrollment, Florida virtual, standard curriculum, choice of private school classes, if they offer that, you can customize those things, including the school districts. Some of the school districts are now getting on board to offer PEP courses for PEP students. So we just keep working on opportunities and choices for parents so that they can customize the education to the best for their child.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. We're going to bring it to a close and say thank you to our top sponsors one more time, Arete, FBEA, Fisher Precious Metals. I will also say this. If you're not in our Discord, you really should be in our Discord. There are so many topics right now popping up, from sports to extracurricular classes and all kinds of other things. And can my county do this? And if you're wanting to be in the know and stay up on top of those things, as well as the initiative that we're working on for coming sessions, please jump into our Discord. It is the place for that. Without further ado, I'll let you have your Monday back. Thank you for being home education families, and thank you for watching and listening. And y'all have a wonderful Monday.